Hi, I'm Brittani Starr from the Zarlequan Indieverse, and today I wanted to come on to talk to you about the Film Fusion film project that we have going on. Right now, I'm looking for groups to film only on their phone. It can be any kind of phone, just on your phone. And we each record 10 minutes, and they're each shorts, but when they are put together, they become one cohesive movie. So everyone is invited to join. You don't have to be a professional. You don't have to really know what you're doing. You just have to have a desire to try and try to make it look as good as possible. I'm not a filmmaker, but I've been watching YouTube videos on how to do take some more cinematic video with my phone, how to make it look as professional as possible. So I'd like you to do the same. You don't have to speak English. We can always dub it in more than one language so that every audience can enjoy this. We each write our own script, but if there is a screenwriter that would like to get involved and look over and try to make the entire script more cohesive with each other, that would be amazing as well. We can talk about editing. We can each edit our own part and then figure out how we can edit it all together. Please email at zarlequan@protonmail.com or go to our website, zarlequan.com, for more information. Thank you.
Conversations with Indie Authors.
Welcome back to the Zarlequan Indieverse. I'm your host, Brittani Starr, and today we have a very special guest. Antonio Aloia is here today to share his story. Welcome to the podcast.
Well, hey, thank you for having me.
You know, I want the audience to hear from you. Take us back to the beginning. What inspired you, and why are you on this path?
Yeah, sure. So, technically, it kind of started all the way back when I was like 5 or 6 when I first started training in Aikido, which was a Japanese martial art. That kind of stayed with me for now 21 years. But when I was in college for my undergrad in history, the senior capstone course was to write something historical. And I went through my mind. I'm like, what am I supposed to do about this? And Aikido came to mind. So I started this whole 15-week long semester research binge on Aikido and the martial arts history within America. And at the end of that, I was thinking of what I should be doing like afterwards. And then in the class, as we were going around with everybody's article, one of the students said, "Hey, why don't you try and make this a book because it feels more like a book?" And I said, "Hey, that's a great idea." So I wound up for the next 3 years. That was in 2017. Fast forward 3 years later, I spent that time working on what is now my book, Aikido Comes to America. And from there, I've started an online martial arts history chronicle called Martial Arts of Yesterday, Today, and Tomorrow, where I just put a bunch of my research and my interviews up on there. It's just so not only it's not all like my stuff, it's everybody's history, it's everybody's stuff, kind of open source like that. And that's just also where I figure out where my next book's going to be. So yeah, that's kind of the short of it.
I actually took Aikido in college. I think I just had to have some kind of exercise class, and that was the only thing available. But I actually really enjoyed it. We learned things like how to get a knife away from someone, and it was more peaceful, I think, than some of the other martial arts. But why are you passionate about martial arts?
Um, well, I think part of it has to be the fact that it's been part of my life for 20 odd years. I mean, it's kind of really hard to pull myself away from that. I don't think it also, I think it helped the fact that I found like video games and anime and action movies that were like, hey, this is really cool. Let me try and see if I can do it in my Aikido class sort of thing. So it just kind of put on top of that, like just kind of amalgamated into something that I'm passionate about. And then since I really love history, that's like one of the main things that I read. It was actually really cool to see that there's history there that people aren't talking about, or small portions of people are talking about. So in one way, it's to try and get that out to the masses, or at least the larger IQ community. Um, yeah, and just the the fact that I can get a workout on top of doing all this research is just also great as well. So I mean, it's kind of hard to put into words how excited and how much it is like a part of me that I just want to keep doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Aikido has a profound influence on American pop culture. Can you describe the impact and evolution of Aikido from the beat movement of the 1950s to the Japanese film craze of the 1960s and the early 90s?
Yeah, so in the 60s, for I guess a little more context, in the 60s, that was kind of like where like this whole counterculture was coming about. It was starting to be the hippies that we usually think of. That's where Woodstock was coming in. It was everything that like the American society, the American family was being challenged, right? Hence the counterculture. So during that time, there was a lot of looking towards like Eastern uh, religions and Eastern thought. Um, Mainly, it was Indian uh, mantras and some other things like that. But like that just kind of opened the door for Americans to start to look at Far Eastern culture, and it really helped after the servicemen came back from World War II, especially in Okinawa and the Pacific Theater, where a lot of them actually just spent time training what would then become karate or judo or aikido, and they would just bring it back and they're like, "Hey, this is cool. Let me start sharing it with people." So it was in that backdrop that allowed aikido and other martial arts to essentially kind of get a foothold in excuse me, American pop culture. And then you can you can fast forward to the 70s with Chuck Norris, and then the 80s with Jean-Claude Van Damme. Um, excuse me, was it Sonny Chiba? I think with like some of the really bad 80s ninja movies and everything else like that. But it just kind of became this thing that people are like, oh my God, this is something really cool that we can just, I guess, package really quickly and just push up to the masses. I mean, it really didn't hurt that Jean-Claude Van Damme was actually very, 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 very good looking and actually built for the time period. So I mean, it was just an easier sell. But that all kind of also helped bridge the gap between or at least the next step with in 1988 and onward with Steven Seagal, since he was from the 70s to 80s, he was doing hardcore IQ training, and then in '88 he came out with a Above the Law, essentially because he had some friends in high places at Warner Brothers. So that just kind of like expanded this reach of Aikido, and it just demonstrated on a higher level that Aikido can be used in action films. Um, I mean, it sure as heck brought a lot of people within that 5 6 years within the first bit of the '90s. A lot of people would be like, "Hey, Steven Seagal's cool with this Aikido stuff. Let's find out more about it." Um, so yeah.
That's really funny. My brother and I grew up watching Steven Seagal and Jean-Claude Van Damme. Never did Chuck Norris, but we we thought they were the cool, like, oh, Steven Seagal's cool. I actually had no idea he did Aikido. So I knew it was martial arts, but I didn't, outside of being cool and kicking butt, like that was about all I knew.
It just really those '80s action movies really just appealed to like the masculinity of of men. It's like, hey, this is gonna be cool. We're just gonna throw people around. We're gonna kick people. We're just gonna jump up. And yeah, it was. I mean, it's really cheesy to today's standards, but on some level, there it's just like, hey, this is actually really cool. Like Bloodsports is still a decent movie.
Yeah. Right. So, in your research, you've highlighted pioneers like Rodney Grantham, Steven Seagal, and others. Can you share a memorable story or insight from your interviews with these individuals?
Yeah. Well, first one you mentioned Rodney Grantham. Unfortunately, by the time that I started to do the research, he was passed. I think it was like the earlier mid 2000s that he passed, and which is unfortunate because like I started like 10 years after like a lot of these guys just lived. But one of the cool things with excuse me, with Grantham is that he actually spent time in Korea in a MASH unit. And the only cool I won't say the only cool thing, but the cool thing with that little aspect is that my father's father was in a MASH unit during the Korean War. And I don't know if they served together or not, but like the fact that I didn't know my father's father, my grandfather, just was like, oh hey, cool. There's something to connect it a little bit to myself. But him in particular, he was one of the main forces in southern United States since he was in Georgia. He was one of the main movers and shakers down there to bring Aikido to that area. He actually started out like a lot of these other early Aikidoka or early practitioners as a judo practitioner. And then, like with what many of these ex-Judo practitioners did once they hit Aikido, they're like, oh my God, Aikido is like this amazing thing that Judo has nothing on. So he wound up starting a school down in Atlanta, Georgia, which is still there today. It's Aikido, uh, shoot, I'm sorry, I totally forget it right now. Um, but it's still there. And what he did to bring Aikido there, besides having a school, is that he went up to New York almost every other weekend or every weekend to go train under a Japanese instructor who arrived there in New York, 1964. So he was continually doing these trips up and down to bring back like decent or like standardized Aikido to the Atlanta, Georgia area. And he even went off to like Georgia, Tennessee, Carolinas to help set up other groups there too. And then his path kind of moves over with this other guy called Thomas Doc Walker, and he's only called Doc because he was a dentist, but he was really into the whole Aikido and martial arts thing. So much so that I should back up a little bit. Walker was from Titusville, Florida. So from Georgia to Florida, there's kind of like that little overlap thing. But he too also spent time studying with the Japanese instructor Yoshimitsu Yamada, who actually unfortunately has recently passed away this year. But Walker was actually one of the many like group founding members within that group at that time of the United States, yeah, United States American. I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. The United States Aikido Federation, or the USAF, which is actually the longest, yeah, oldest and largest Aikido organization here in America. So Walker, along with a bunch of other people, helped form that entity that still is around today. And he wound up going through Florida, other places of the south of the southern United States. But I'm going to Iceland, bits in the Caribbean. I think one or two in Russia. Essentially, he went to these places and helped set up schools for the people there that want to train Aikido. So both Rodney Grantham and Thomas Walker were just kind of like little Johnny Appleseeds, just spreading the good word around. Um, I know you asked for one, but those were two like big stories from American Aikido practitioners.
Nice. Beyond Aikido, you've explored prominent American martial artists of the time. What fascinating connections or contrasts did you find between Aikido and other martial arts practices during that era?
Right. Okay. The the one that really comes to mind is Kempo Karate and its founder, Edmund Parker or Ed Parker. What he what 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 was different was that Aikido was a lot of grassroots sort of methods where someone would just go out and just open up a dojo and be like, hey, we have Aikido here. And if you want to come in, cool, awesome. Um, a lot of people from that era have mentioned that their numbers were low because it was just it was kind of an odd martial art, but still people were open to try it. So they didn't have consistent students. On the opposite end, you had Edmund Parker, who spent time, actually, who grew up in Hawaii, spent time with karate and kung fu and a handful of other stuff there too. Came over here in to Pasadena, California, opened up his own school there. But the way that he did stuff was that it was more of a it was commercial in the sense of he started doing contracts, like yearly contracts or monthly contracts with students, so that in one way, shape, or form, because this is a business, money would be coming in. He also went in and went into I forget the basically country club hotel sort of thing, but he basically started hobnobbing with like Hollywood and music stars at that time. I mean he was the one that brought Elvis Presley into Kempo Karate. Um, which is actually really cool, and that's a rabbit hole which has been my has been on my reading list for a bit. I haven't gotten to that point yet, but excuse me, he went the opposite route. He wanted to get those the star power to bring more people in. Um, so you asked like how that was different. That was different. They both arts went different routes to try and get people in. Now, the cool thing is that both of them are still around today. So I'm not sure which one did better than the other, but the fact that both of them are still around says that the way that they did it still allowed them to exist today.
Great. You are passionate about both history and Aikido. Can you tell us about your process of writing this book? How did you gather all the information?
Well, really just hardcore research. So I did interviews, and I wanted to find like the specific people that were I guess that had some of the most impact on American Aikido. The the headache part of that was that America is giant, so there's all these different regions, and there's actually a lot of important people, and unfortunately, because of that, uh, there was actually a cutoff point, and there was a point where within the book where I'm like, okay, I need to, I need to stop. I need to make sure what I have is great, because if I keep going on, I'm just going to keep going on, and 3 years become 5 years, 5 years become 10 years, and this would never have seen the light of day. So, right. So, the process there was just to find the important people and see if I can find them to interview, or ha or like one of their students or a colleague and interview them. Um, Also at that point, since I was dealing with a lot of oral history, I went through a lot of the um, a, a lot of the school websites, because most of those school websites have history, like a little short history blurb with them. So I use that. Really, it was like use whatever source that you can to create that narrative, to create that story. Because even if it's later on it's proved to be wrong, then I actually have the time and space to go back and be like, oh yeah, this is what I said before, but now with the new information that I found, it's actually, this is the right thing. It's kind of that starting point. It's that trial and error sort of thing, which is a lot of what the historical scholarship is based off of. But that's kind of how I really went about researching. It was just try to find information on X, Y, and Z, and then try and fill in those gaps from point A to point D to point C. And then, honestly, I was researching and doing interviews like 6 months before the book actually published. So there was a lot of like things that where I felt like I need to put in before it was finalized. So yeah, there was a point where I needed to stop researching, but yeah.
Well, and I want you to shamelessly promote your book. Tell us where we can get it. Where can we find you online, and how can we connect?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find IKEA Comes to America on Amazon. You can just type IKEA Comes to America, Amazon, boom, it's right there. I have a Amazon profile there as well. However, if you want to see more of my more recent research and writings, excuse me, you can go to Martial Arts of Yesterday, Today, and Tomorrow, or Mayett, Maytt. Website is martialarthistory.com, singular art, so martialarthistory.com. You can find that there. You can find more awesome research there. I am on, well, not me, actually, sorry. Mayett is on Facebook, so you just type in Mayett or Martial Arts of Yesterday, Today, Tomorrow on Facebook. I'm on Reddit. I'm on Twitter or X or whatever it's called now. I'm not even sure how to follow that, and also on Instagram as well. Most of them should be actually Maytt history. And yeah, that's kind of where you can find me with link wise.
Yeah, and we will have all the links that you gave us in the description box, so our listeners can find you as well. Thank you for being here today, Antonio Aloia. And thanks for providing a glimpse at the history of martial arts, or Aikido. It kind of mixes a little more than just Aikido in there as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you for having me too. I mean, it's been fun.
It was fun and it really interesting. I love that you brought up like my childhood heroes, Steven Seagal and Jean-Claude Van Damme. You're right. I think it was just because they were kind of attractive that might have been.
Well, maybe. I mean, I'm just here to relay facts, not to do anything else like that.
I might. Well, my brother probably didn't find them attractive, but it's fine. We might have been watching for different reasons. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe.
Well, I am your host, Brittani Starr. This is the Zarlequan Indieverse, where we support indie authors, artists, and musicians of all walks of life. If you like this episode, please like, subscribe, and share with all your friends so we can grow our community. Come back next week for more engaging conversations with indie authors.
Are you an independent filmmaker or aspiring creator with a passion for storytelling? Imagine joining forces with like-minded visionaries to create something extraordinary. Introducing Film Fusion Unite the Vision, a groundbreaking cinematic collaboration like no other. 9 individuals or groups contributing a 10-minute segment coming together to craft a full-length cinematic minute masterpiece. Collaboration brings innovation, the meeting of minds, a fusion of talents, and a chance to learn, grow, and inspire. Here's how it works. 9 individuals or groups, each with their own unique style and storytelling, come together to embark on a collective journey. Each contributor creates a 10-minute segment that fits within the overarching narrative. These segments combine seamlessly, forming a cohesive and unforgettable full-length movie. When you join Film Fusion Unite the Vision, you get more than just a segment in a film, you get a platform to shine. You'll experience networking, learning, and a chance to build your creative portfolio. Are you ready to unite your vision with others, creating a cinematic masterpiece? Don't miss this opportunity. Join Film Fusion Unite the Vision and be part of something extraordinary. Let's unite, let's create, and let's inspire the world with our stories. Together, we are Film Fusion. Unite the Vision.
The Zarlequan Indieverse. If you enjoyed this show today, please like, subscribe, and share with your friends.